Cheers. We're talking about a port that I had nothing to do with. My father made this port, but it's a port that I'm very proud of. And it's a port which, for me, is also what drives what I do. Because at the end of the day, when I bottle a vintage port like the 17, I want my son or my grandson to be proud of what I did. This port was made by my father, the Fonseca, 1985. It is now reaching or getting close to the ripe age of 40 years. And it is a wonderful moment and a great example of what a mature vintage port is. And if you have a number of bottles in your cellar, if you open this bottle, you will have the pleasures of the incredible complexity. Look at this, all this bottle maturity, this marzipan, the spiciness that you get, which is what nearly 40 years in the bottle will give you. But it has still got so much fruit, so much intensity, that if you have a case and you drink a few bottles for yourself and you leave some for your son, then you'll be very happy with that as well. He'll be even happier.
Yeah, there's something about the time travel that many great wines can do, but vintage port can do with ease.
For those who know what they're doing.
Those are-
And I stress that because that's very important. Fonseca 1985 has got a cult following. It is considered the greatest of the 85s. And it's still, I look at it and see the youth that it still has now. It's 38 years old. And it's still so youthful.
Yeah.
But look at this extraordinary, how much is going on in your palate when you're drinking this? How much you discovered? You said you'd had an 85 before. How long ago was that?
It was, I want to say, in the early 2000s, 2004, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at it now. Look at how much more it has gained. But then you drink it and say, well, okay, it's incredible. But it will be even better in another 20 years' time than it is today.
Yeah. And you talk about how this is a wine that your father made, and the ability of, like, when you see that 85, when you taste an 85, you're thinking about, okay, like, who was I when this was made? Who was I when I first had it? I recently had an opportunity to taste a wine from Alsace when Alsace was German in the middle of the Second World War, and it started a conversation about what my grandfather was doing during the war at that time, and thinking about, okay, 85, and okay, for me, I was 7 years old when this wine was being harvested, and what the world was like, and all those things coupled with the prettiness of the fruit. You go from this wine and the fruit's all there, but then you come back to the Bin 27 prettiness, but at a completely different level.
But what you're saying is exactly what the world of fine wine is about. You're talking about what the world of the wine lover is about. Every bottle of vintage port has got a story to tell. 1985, you were 7 years old. 1985, I was 19 years old. My father gave me a one-way ticket to Australia because he wanted to show me the new world. I ended up studying in Australia for 5 years, or studying and working. So I was in Australia for 5 years, and 1985 was the year which produced these ports, which is an extraordinary concentration. Every bottle of vintage port has got a story to tell of what happened. And in the same way that you can explore a region and different producers by the different wines that you taste, you can also travel the world by drinking fine wine from different countries. And that is what the world of fine wine is about. That's why today there have never been so many people interested in quality wine. Because if you have that interest, and this is only interesting if you have that interest. I mean, wine is about people who like it. It's not about imposing it on people. But if you have that interest, there is so much to discover in fine wine. And that's why vintage port is considered as one of the greatest wines in the world, alongside the great Burgundies, the great Bordeauxs, because to do it well, you really need to know what you're doing. But when it is good, it is extraordinary. So, cheers.
It's extraordinary.
It's been a pleasure. And cheers to the camera who's done all the hard work. Isn't the complexity of this just something?
I love this. This is so good.
Oh.
It's like just in this limited amount of time, every sip has been radically different than the one before.
And you see the way the flavors go on. If we talk about the 13 going on in relation to the 17, but then look what this has in relation to the 13. It's kind of, this is magic. This is what it's about.
Yeah.
And I had nothing to do with it. Well, I did help at the harvest, but
There you go. There you go. You can take credit.
no, I won't take any credit. No, I won't. I can take credit or criticism for the ports that I've made.
Yeah.
I'll credit my father with great pride of the ports that he made.
What was the first vintage you made that you claim?
94.
94.
94. So I started back home in 1990, and my father retired in 95. So 94 was the first I was fully responsible for. And, but still today, I always said that if any of the vintage ports I make are as good as the Fonseca 63, then I'm happy with my career. And I think you've got to always look at what you're doing, thinking about what I've had the good fortune to inherit from previous generations, but also to think what I can leave for the generations to come. That's the port business. I think when you come to the lodges here, that's what you see here, that's what you sense.
Absolutely.
This is our life, this is what we are.
Fabulous, man.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Cheers.